The next talk that the Swami gave that is presented in this book, Realizing God, which is titled Cast Out Fear, seems to me extraordinarily appropriate for the days that we're living in now. So I'm going to suggest, unless I hear some very strong request for some other talk to be read and discussed, I'm going to go ahead and read this Cast Out Fear. The world in which we live is a world of incessant fear and constant worry. We are beset with fear at every step, and worries follow us constantly. If we overcome one difficulty, there is another. Thus it goes. We are afraid to face life itself or its uncertainties, and we are afraid to die. If we have a job, we are afraid of losing it. If we have no job, we are afraid we might not get one. If we have economic security today, we are afraid that we might lose it tomorrow. If we don't have it, we're afraid that we may not get it. The world by its very nature is ever-changing. The Sanskrit word for this world is jagat, which means that which changes and passes. There is nothing in this world that we can hold on to. As Buddha once pointed out, can we attempt to make the clouds stay? It is the nature of the river to flow. It is the nature of this world to flow. There are always uncertainties, and with them come fear in every life. We find the rise and fall of nations and empires. In individual lives, we find rise and fall. We seek beauty, health, happiness, position, economic security, intellect, advancement. We find them, but how long can we hold on to them? They pass away. I am talking like a great pessimist. I am talking like a great pessimist because I don't see anything in life that we can hold on to as something of eternal value. But then, as I shall point out, religion makes us the greatest of optimists. In order that we attain that optimism with certitude, we have to be pessimistic with what we regard to see and experience only with our senses. In short, whether we want to call ourselves pessimists or optimists, this is the experience of everyone. We live in fear. There is no question about that. It is a fact that we have to face. The ostrich in the fable may hide its head in the sand when it faces danger, but that does not free it from danger. We may hide ourselves, drink and get intoxicated to forget the worries of the world, but we have to wake up and face our situations. Some religions play on our fears to make us fear God. We are afraid not only of this life and death, but we are afraid of the next life. We are not only afraid of the future while we are living here, but afraid of what will happen to us when we die. Religion may play on our fears, But if we go to the source of every religion, we shall find out differently. If you read the Upanishads, there is one note running throughout. Become fearless. Become fearless. Upon what grounds can we be fearless, is the question. The Upanishads are very clear upon that point. Knowing the bliss of God, one casts out all fear. Knowing the bliss of God, one casts out all fear. The mark of genuine religion is freedom from fear. It is not a question of bravado, but of grounding ourselves upon something where we positively become fearless, knowing there is no danger, no worry, no troubles. That is what religion seeks to give us. The mark of genuine spiritual life is that fearlessness. The mark of genuine spiritual life is that fearlessness. Read the incident, recall the incident of the meeting between Alexander the Great and a holy man of India. Alexander was impressed by this man's wisdom and wanted to return with him to Greece. He refused. Alexander tempted him with wealth and enjoyments. The holy man refused again, saying, "What need have I of those things? The trees of the forest supply me with the fruits and food. The water in the river gives me drink. The grass is my bed. The sky is my room. What need have I of anything else?" When no temptation could win this man, Alexander said, "Do you know what power I have? I can force you to come with me. If you don't, I'll kill you." The holy man laughed loudly right in his face and said, "That is the greatest lie you have uttered in your life. You say you will kill me? Nothing can kill me. Fire cannot burn me, sword cannot wound me, water cannot wet me, wind cannot dry me. I am the eternal spirit." The holy man laughed loudly, fearlessness. The holy man laughed loudly right in his face and said, "That is the greatest lie you have uttered in your life. You say you will kill me? Nothing can kill me. Fire cannot burn me. Sword cannot wound me. Water cannot wet me. Wind cannot dry me. I am the eternal spirit." We read this as a story of ancient India, but I am telling you of modern India. I have sat at the feet of such holy men who possessed nothing of this world, no power, no kingdom, no wealth, who possessed only one thing. No power, no kingdom, no wealth, who possessed only one thing, and that is the bliss of God. Not only were they themselves fearless, but anyone sitting at their feet could feel that fearlessness in themselves. My master used to tell us, "Be fearless yourself and spread that fearlessness to others. Let none be afraid." And that is the ideal of spiritual life. What is there to fear if you can touch eternity? That is the ideal of spiritual life. What is there to fear if you can touch eternity? What is the real source of our anguish and bondage? The cause is nothing but ignorance. The tragedy is that we are not conscious of our ignorance. It is ignorance that causes fear and bondage. But what can take that away? Darkness can be removed by light. Ignorance only be removed by knowledge. Darkness can be removed by light. Ignorance only be removed by knowledge. Changing the circumstances and conditions of your life will not take away fear. Changing the circumstances and conditions of your life will not take away fear. If you free yourself from immediate troubles, newer troubles arise. What are you going to do about them? It is only when you know the reality behind this appearance that you reach God. When you reach God, it is only when you know the reality behind this appearance, when you reach God, that you become fearless. You have to rise above this phenomenal appearance and phenomenal self. At present, our consciousness is, as it were, out of focus. If you consider yourself the body, and most of us do, then you try to keep it as you love it. If you consider yourself the body, and most of us do, then you try to keep it as you love it. However, you cannot. It is just like bidding the clouds to stay. But if you can reach the real self, which is not subject to surface life or death, which is not affected by the happiness or misery of the world, or by virtue or vice, which is beyond relativity, then you become grounded in reality, where fear itself fears to approach. So I'm going to go over this a little bit. The happiness and the misery of the world are the product of our feeling that we are this individual, separate self, this small self. We think of ourselves as someone who does good things or bad things. This is what the Swami means by virtue or vice. Happiness and misery, virtue or vice. And we really believe in the relativity. We believe in the past. We think about the future. We plan for, dream about the future. But if you are not affected by the happiness or misery of the world, if you're not concerned about virtue or vice, it isn't that virtue and vice aren't there. It's simply that if you're aiming higher, it is not a concern. If you're aiming higher, you naturally behave appropriately. So you don't have to concern yourself about good conduct, virtue or vice. You don't have to concern yourself about time. You don't have to worry about the things that you did or didn't do in the past, or that someone did to you or didn't do for you in the past, did to you or didn't do for you in the past. You become grounded in a reality where fear itself fears to approach. As Sri Ramakrishna says, that which fears becomes like a shy child and retreats into the shadows. The unripe ego retreats into the shadows, and you are left with a sense of your true self, which translates into a ripe ego. That is to say, one that does not consider itself separate and can speak and think like that holy man in the story about Alexander. There is a prayer in the Upanishads. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from death to immortality. Lead us from darkness to light. That's in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So what is ignorance? To see this world, to see the world only partially. So what is our ignorance? The fact that we see this world only partially. We see the events and happenings in the history of mankind and of our individual lives only partially. Partial truth is not truth at all. It is even more dangerous than falsehood. Take, for instance, a beautiful painting. Instead of looking at the whole painting, you look only at one point. This world that we experience with our finite consciousness is only a part of the whole. The Swami is asserting a bigger picture that we're not seeing, and as long as we remain focused on our distractions and concerns of the moment and the day, and especially when we are prisoner to the distractions and concerns of our past and constantly projecting ourselves into an imaginary future. As Mark Twain humorously remarked, thousands of horrible things have occurred to me in this life, most of which never happened. Thousands of horrible things have occurred to me in this life, most of which never happened. We can imagine so much. We can think up so much distraction. That which we experience with our finite consciousness is only a part of the whole. In that part, we find all these worries, troubles, wars, changes. In our individual lives, we see only a portion of our life. Chaos, misery, life, death. As long as we live within this portion, which is on the surface, there is no escape. I'm going to tell you a humorous story. Christopher Isherwood, as some of you know, was Swami Prabhavananda's dear friend. Christopher was English, and many people who traveled from England, particularly during the war and shortly afterwards when there was such privation in the United Kingdom, they would come and see Christopher, and some of them he would bring to hear Swami Prabhavananda speak. When one of these gentlemen came one Sunday morning, Christopher and that fellow were invited to lunch afterwards. And the Swami at lunch asked this Englishman, "Well, what do you think?" He meant the talk that he had heard. And the Englishman, being forthright, said, "Well, Swami, if I'm honest, it sounds like escapism." And the Swami was quiet for a moment and then said, "Yes, no doubt. But for the life of me, I cannot think why I would not want to escape. For the life of me, I cannot think why I would not want to escape. So let that write itself on your hearts. For the life of you, let you not be able to imagine why you would not want to escape. There are those who believe they can straighten out the world and straighten out their individual lives. That is a good ideal to face. That is a good ideal to face the facts of life. But after you have done all that, what happens? Is it not like the dog's curly tail? You straighten it out, and again it curls. That is the very nature of the dog's tail. And if ever you've had a dog that has a curly tail, it's absolutely true. I used to have a Basenji that had a curly tail. And you could pull that tail out straight, and it would just go right back. What makes the world appear to me as it does? When I see the world as always changing, it is my ignorance that makes me see that. How can my ignorance be removed? And who can remove it? Only I can remove it. How can my ignorance be removed? And who can remove it? Only I can remove it. Then all this dreaming of evil and change departs like a dream. And if you want to read an evocation of this, if you want to read a testimonial to this disappearance of what he's talking about, read Walt Whitman's Song of Myself. It's one of the poems in his book, Leaves of Grass, Song of Myself. And he talks about being in the state of ignorance and removing it. Then all this dreaming of evil and change departs like a dream. The end of that poem is a quietly triumphant assertion of his freedom from worry, from fear. There is a veil over our eyes, a veil over our senses. What we see and know is darkness. If that darkness is not removed by illumination, if that darkness is removed by illumination, we shall see what is behind the changing phenomena and behind our individual selves. We shall see what is behind the changing phenomena and behind our individual selves. The Upanishads call that what we see behind the individual selves Satchidananda, infinite experience, infinite happiness, and eternal consciousness. God can be known, not merely intellectually, but directly and immediately. It is only when we come nearer, when we get a glimpse of God, that fearlessness comes into the heart. It is an actual experience that has to come. Before you attempt that, believe wholeheartedly, I can know God. Now the Swami is giving us a direct instruction here. When you sit for contemplation, concentration, and meditation, he's saying, sit with the expectation. Sit as you sit with the expectation. Believe wholeheartedly, I can know God. In Him, we find the source of light, happiness, and freedom. If you believe that first, then there will come the effort, then there will come the urge. If you believe that first, if you believe that this can happen, if you believe that first, then there will come the urge to devote yourself to reaching that ideal. So day after day, you hold that truth to be what the Swami is saying is self-evident. You hold that truth to be self-evident, that you can know God. And when you convince yourself of that, when you believe that wholeheartedly, why? Because such as the Swami and the scriptures tell you, it's a working faith. It's not a blind faith. It's a working faith. There will come the urge to devote yourself to reaching that ideal. And this is the fact. If you make the attempt, you will find yourself moving toward that light. It is a fact, just as 2 + 2 makes 4. So the Swami notice that there is no qualification. If you make the attempt, you will find yourself moving toward that light. It is a fact, just as 2 + 2 makes 4. When you know the true world and the true self, then you shall find there is a perfect harmony between this world and God. They are not separate. God is everywhere. When you reach that, you become free from fear. So because I have not done much in the way of interpolation here, not much in the way of explanation, it's just 11:30. We started promptly at 11 today. So it's just 11:30. We have plenty of time to discuss this. And I hope you will wish to discuss this. I hope you'll wish to explore some of what the Swami said. Ask your questions, and so that we can go deeper into what it is that the Swami said. This is the part where we help one another, we serve one another by being forthcoming and being bold to bring forward who we are and what questions we have, what concerns we have, what the truth is as that we know it. So please.
Question. How do we do that?
Anyone?
Yes. Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
Yes. I was just thinking on that line that one of the prayers should be, which I tend to practice, is to ask Thakur to give me the right understanding so that I am not just led by my own perceptions or partial truth, and I'm not influenced by my own thoughts and perceptions. So give me the right understanding.
Perfect. Exactly. That's what's meant by the prayer that the Swami quoted from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Oma Satoma Satkamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Lead us from thy lesser truth to thy highest truth. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. It's just exactly right, Nira. Replace my ignorance and misperceptions. Replace those with the truth, with the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Perfect, exactly. Thank you. Anyone else?
Go ahead.
Hello,
Yes,
Brother Shankara.
yes,
This is
yes,
Vijay.
yes, Vijay.
A quick question, please. I used to be able to invoke Thakur's image anytime, not only in the puja room, but anytime, any place. But now also I'm able to invoke his image, but I'm not able to keep steady as long as I used to. And that concerns me more, especially when that happens in the puja room during arati. Any idea on how I could?
Yes, this is a stage that we go through. The first is we're using our intellect to create the image. We're not really seeing the image. We're not really seeing the truth of the divine being. It's a well-known stage. Later on, when we begin to really glimpse the being, the truth behind the intellectualization, the visualization, when we're really seeing it, it's very hard to hold it. But persist. As you go on, you'll find you go deeper, and what happens is you lose your awareness of your surroundings, and you simply become absorbed in being with that, because that is your true self. As Swami Prabhavananda said, the chosen ideal is you yourself, no different. Learn to feel that living presence. So at first, we conjure up, so to speak. Not a bad thing, but it's not living. It's not the living image. Later on, that's replaced by the living image, but it's very hard because of our distractions and the impurities of the heart, which we're all prey to hold that image. But if you persist, it will grow, and the time that you spend with it will lengthen. And finally, as I say, you lose your awareness of your surroundings. You're simply with the image. You're simply with that being. It's no longer an image. You're with that being. And you don't think about, I am me and that is that. You're simply with it. So
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
you bet.
And I want to ask you an extension of it, please. You use the expression living image. When that happens, I hope it happens, that I do see that living image. What would I expect? What would the living image be like if what I have been feeling really is an image that's conjured up, not a real one? What would the
It's
real
not that
image be
it's
like?
not real. It's not that it's not real. But it's like looking at a picture rather than looking at Nira. If you look at a picture of Nira, an image of Nira, that's not the same as being there with Nira. When it is the living being, it is just like being with Nira. You're there with Nira. You have the sense and the feeling of Nira. The difference is that divine being is so powerful, and so its presence is so radiant and full that it overcomes our self-awareness. So first we see it, we experience it. Then, as Swami Prabhavananda says, that's feeling the living presence. Then in time you begin to understand the meaning of his words when he says, that image is, that being is you, no different. So when that happens, when it's the living presence, it's like being, like you're in the living presence of Nira right now. In the beginning, you'll feel this living presence, see this living presence, experience this living presence, and then as that persists over many, many times of sitting with it, it will overwhelm your small self-awareness. And when you return from that experience, then the greatest transformation of your spiritual life begins. And this fearlessness that the Swami talks about sets in. And in the beginning, as Adi Shankaracharya says in the last two chapters of the Viveka Chudamani, in the beginning it comes and goes, it comes and goes, it comes and goes. Then afterwards, it sustains. As Swami Prabhavananda used to say, but to people who wanted to talk to him about Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the ultimate realization, he would say, oh, well, first attain Savikalpa Samadhi. Then we'll talk about Nirvikalpa Samadhi. I was just describing to you the experience that I was talking to you about is Savikalpa Samadhi.
Thank you so much. You really not only have explained it so well, you have taken some guilt away from me, because somehow I've been feeling a little guilty in the puja room, not being able to.
Yes, this guilt and shame is one of the 8 fetters. We have to be rid of it, Vijay. We have to be rid of it. Just set it aside. Don't think, oh, I should do this. This is that virtue and vice routine. No, you just make the attempt, make the attempt, make the attempt, make the attempt. Holding on to the conviction, I can do it, it will happen, just as the Swami said. No reason to feel any guilt or shame or anything of that kind. As long as you're making the effort, as Holy Mother said, every tiny little bit of effort is significant. Nothing is lost or wasted. Every tiny little bit counts. Nothing to worry about. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is, for most of us, because our culture teaches us to feel this guilt and shame when we're not something, when we're not wealthy, when we're not this, when we're not that, when we're not the other thing. Oh, there's something shameful about that. We're taught this bullshit. Anything else, dears?
Thank you so much.
You bet.
So, Brother Shankara, what was the quotation of Swami Sridhanananda from Australia that you used to make, It's exactly, yes. I want to hear that.
What he said was, we begin with the conviction and the knowledge, the certainty, I am.
Mm-hmm.
In time we come by the dawn, by the development of reverence, which is bhakti, we have the feeling I am and she or he is, Ishwari or Ishwara, whatever appeals to our heart, the chosen ideal. I am and she or he is. Then in time that reverses, and we have this feeling of where the primacy, where the power really is. We have this feeling, she or he is, and I am. Ultimately, when this absorption occurs, we have the feeling of she or he is. There's no longer any thought or feeling of a separate self. But this stage of she or he is and I am will normally persist for years. We slip in and out of this feeling of deep absorption and reverence for the divine being, devotion to the divine being, because we are living our lives, and it's perfectly normal and absolutely to be expected. And so ultimately, we experience the full-on Savikalpa Samadhi. And the way to think about that is, if you just think about a pie, a nice pumpkin pie, say, and you've cut a slice loose from the pie, but you haven't removed it yet from the pie pan. So there's just this little thin line of separation where the slice has been cut loose. But it's still a whole pie. It's still the entire pie. But there is this sense by that slice of somehow I am just that little bit separate. The pie is, but also I am. I am a part of the pie, but I am. And so that persists. But that's Savikalpa Samadhi. When there is only the whole pie, then something else happens, as Patanjali says. Something happens to you and you go into this state of Kaivalya. You are the pie and everything else. Very good questions, very good comments. Anything else, dears? Please share with us what's in your heart and what's in your mind.
Hi, Brother Shankara.
Yes, hello, Aaron.
Yes, I just found that I've been chanting a lot the past week, and just over such a short amount of time, it's really helped to deal with these impurities that you speak of.
Well, what it does is it highlights those impurities, doesn't it? It brings it. We witness the impurities. Oh, these are the impediments that's keeping me. Isn't that the feeling, sort of?
Yeah.
Okay, and good. Then you can see. Oh, well, this is where I'm getting hung up. I can set that aside. Very good for bringing that up, Aaron. And I'm really glad you're chanting regularly. Keep it up, and the effect is certain. The effect is sure.
Yeah, I think it's very good for anybody at like the beginning of a spiritual path, because it's so easy to do. I mean, you just don't overthink it and just keep chanting.
Don't overthink it. Absolutely right. Don't overthink.
Aaron, you're chanting your Diksha mantra aloud. Is that what you're doing?
I chant the Hare Krishna mantra.
Hare Krishna. I've been doing that one too. I find it gives me peace. I like it.
Well, yes, it'll give you peace. It is the name of Ishvara. Yes, that Hare Krishna mantra is not chanted by millions around the world for no reason. But if you're given a Diksha mantra, then that one will be more directly appropriate for you. But Aaron's use of the Hare Krishna mantra, or yours for that matter, Brahmadas, wonderful. But the Diksha mantra is qualitatively more appropriate for you personally.
Are you
Right.
talking Brahmadas?
So anyone else? Anything else? Please.
Brother Shankara, also
Yes, dear.
because the Diksha mantra on Thakur, and Thakur said that both Krishna and Rama are within me. So
No. He said, he who was born as Rama, he who was born as Krishna is here in this body. And he didn't actually say this body, he just said, is here pointing to his body as Ramakrishna. So that meant who was born as Rama, who was born as Krishna, who was born as Ramakrishna, Vishnu. If you think of the story of Khudiram at Gaya, it was a vision of Vishnu that he had. As Swami Sarvadevananda exalts, green as a new pea pod, he says of Vishnu, green as a new pea pod. Vishnu appeared to Khudiram and said, I shall be born as your son. So it's Vishnu. It is that aspect of the divine presence, one of the mind-born sons of Mother herself, responsible for sustaining and protecting Jagat, that was born. And so that is who is being chanted in the Hare Krishna mantra, two of the names of Vishnu. So it is Vishnu that was born as Sri Ramakrishna. Later, he came to say that toward the end of his life, because of what had happened as Kali became his Ishta Devata, he said there are two here pointing to his body. The mother, meaning Kali, and her worshipper, Vishnu. So when we're seeing that shrine pose picture of Sri Ramakrishna, that's who is sitting there. The mother herself and Vishnu in that form of Ramakrishna. So yes, it is the power of the divine being itself that is in those mantras. Not only the power of the divine being, but their accumulated spiritual treasure, that as they did what Jesus said when he said, I have overcome the world. And they can share that with us. They can share that overcoming the world. As it's said in the evening hymn, thou hast finished with fear and with doubt, standing firm in the vision of God, refuge to all who have cast fame, fortune, and friends away. Without question thou shelterest us, and the world's great sea in its wrath seems shrunk to the puddle that fills a hoofprint in the clay. So that's the promise, that in that refuge we take in Thakur Ma, that we find that fearlessness, that overcoming of fear and doubt, and standing firm in the vision of God. and the world's great sea in its wrath seems shrunk to the puddle that fills a hoofprint in the clay. Now, does that happen all at once overnight? No, no, no. Because we keep slipping in and out of the refuge. It isn't that the refuge isn't always there. It's just that our awareness slips away. Ultimately, that becomes our home. You can see it in a Sarvadevananda, Yogatmananda, a Harinamananda. That is their home. They live in that refuge, not nowhere else.
And as refuge for those who have cast fame, fortune, and friends away, Shailesh and I were talking about this the other day. We've found that we're starting to lose touch with lifelong friends because of our spirituality. We just are drifting away from them. And it's just an observation we've both made.
Yes, and it isn't that they're bad people.
Some of them are.
Well,
some aren't, yeah. But I mean, a lot of them are into booze and drugs and stuff, and we're just
even so, they're not bad people. They're just more ignorant, and so because they are more deeply immersed in ignorance, their relevance to you lessens.
Right.
It isn't that they're bad or wrong.
Right.
It's just that their involvement with you is no longer, there's no longer any sense of dependence by you on them for anything. And so they drift away. It's a very natural thing. And some of them resent it. Some of them
yes. Yeah, we both have observed that as well. Some are resentful. They say,
yes.
Why don't you call me anymore?
Yeah, exactly. So be as sweet to them as you can. You know, they too are the divine person in embodied form. So be as sweet to them as you can, but just let them drift away. Let them drift away. Don't hold to them. It isn't like having friends is wrong. It's just we must not be dependent on anything of the world.
Right, right.
As Swami Prabhavananda says, I know it's hard to hear it, but as I've told you many times, the only one who is truly your own is the Lord. So that's where we place our dependence. That becomes our refuge. And interestingly, it says in the Chandi, those who take that refuge become a refuge of others. So the people that then are drawn to you, the people that are in your life, you become a refuge for one another because they're like you. You become a refuge for one another. No dependence, but a joy and a sharing, as is happening right this minute. Anything else, dears? This is so good. This is so good.
Brother Shankara, this is Haima.
Yes, Haima.
I totally agree. Like we can maintain friendships, but we don't have to discuss about our divinity and our Vedanta and our path.
No, they don't want to hear about it, Haima. They say, don't try to convert me.
Don't need to discuss those friends. Those friends haven't earned that they're not at our level. So I have friends who don't believe in all this religious Vedanta and spirituality. So I just don't even talk to
Me too. I take a lot of criticism.
And maintain friendship, but you don't have to discuss about our spirituality. You discuss people who are on the same path like you and me or our spiritual group people.
Right.
So,
A bit of advice. Don't talk about your spiritual life.
Exactly.
Don't mention it.
No, I've learned not to do that with certain people.
Don't. Only with those that you do find are refuge for you, like you're having these wonderful conversations with Shailesh. Those with whom you can share. Yes. Otherwise, just be quiet.
Yes.
But think of them as Shiva.
Yeah, they are good people.
Think of them as Sri Ramakrishna said, serve Jiva as Shiva.
Serve
If you
Jiva,
do
Shiva.
that, if you do serve Jiva, the living and breathing people that you're necessarily associated with, serve them as Shiva. If you take that attitude toward them, never saying a word about what you're doing or why, never saying a word about it, just treat them that way, your relationship will revolutionize. They will think of you as someone that they can depend on, confide in, trust, and so you may find a need to distance yourself a little bit from them, because they will want to talk to you sometimes more than you would really rather like to have them talk to you, because they feel something about you that's unique. And but this is what's meant by becoming a refuge of others. So refuge for others. So well and good, you know. Let them talk to you and trust you.
Yes.
In a
And
way.
when you say
that is-
serve them as Shiva, does that mean they're Shiva or we're Shiva?
Both.
Everybody.
Both.
Actually, isn't that like practicing detachment in attachment? In other words, you don't have to be attached to them, or they don't have to be attached to you, but you're practicing some sort of detachment.
But the detachment that you're practicing is one of the surface aspects of life and relationship. So, but underneath, you are thinking of them as the divine being, and thinking of yourself as the divine being. Mentally, you say to them, Namaste. The divine presence in me salutes the divine presence in you. You don't say anything to them about it, because as you say, you just get pushback. Don't try to convert me. Okay, I don't say anything because I don't want that reaction and I don't want that kind of relationship. But just hold that thought when you're dealing with them. Whether I see it or not, in the moment, it is the divine presence. That's why Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, could say to people with complete sincerity, I like you just the way you are. Because he was addressing the divine person, the divine being. If you look into the life of Fred Rogers, you find he was an amazingly profound and saintly man. But if you deal with other people in that spirit, it'll transform your relationship to the world, and necessarily then other people's relationships with you. And you won't have these responses of, don't try to convert me, because you're not trying to convert them. You're not doing anything other than serving them as the divine being, your interactions with them.
Brother Shankara, this is Vani.
Yes, who is that?
Vani.
Oh, yes, Vani. You'll need to be closer to the microphone, dear.
Okay, is it better now?
That's better.
Okay. Yeah, so I was thinking about the discussion, and one of the things that I think most of the people on spiritual path struggle with is finding a balance between self-preservation and being a refuge for others.
Yes.
A lot of times, being there for someone means investing a lot of our time and energy into helping them, but at the same time, we need to conserve that for our private spiritual practice, be it meditation or chanting or reading up. One way I have found out that's helped me is praying. If I can't directly offer my time and energy, if I can't sit and talk about things that they want to talk about, I pray. And after my meditation, I just, offer, like, I just pray to Thakur and say, I'm sorry, I can't help this person. So please take care of him or her, and, give your blessings to him or her.
Mm-hmm.
So help need not always be direct and need not be by us.
Well, that's just priceless, Vani. That prayer, as Swami Prabhavananda was asked about that, Swami, does prayer really help? And he said, what? Do you think you're separate? Of course it helps. And then he went on to describe how to pray. I don't need to say it because you just said it. You just offer yourself to others in prayer through the divine. You offer your heart and your love and your willingness to be loving to this person through that prayer. And Swami Prabhavananda went on to say, if you really want to help with some specific issue that is facing this other person that they've brought to you, then make japam for them. Do your own mantra, but before you start, say to the divine presence, this 20 minutes or whatever it is that you're offering, this is for so-and-so and for this concern that they brought up to me, this health issue or this unhappiness or relationship issue or whatever it is. So you make japam for them. And Swami Prabhavananda said, it is very powerful. The benefit that would have come to you in terms of direct result goes to that other person. But the great benefit to you is you're drawing nearer to the divine presence by, so to speak, sitting by their side and saying, give your power and your refuge and your help to this person. Very good, Vani. That's exactly right. And you're so right that for a long time, we must not try to change the world, to straighten out the world, other people's lives and so on. We have to be self-protective, as you said, self-regarding, set boundaries, because otherwise you cannot really be of any service to others unless you are fully strong. As Sri Ramakrishna said, in the beginning you must fence the young plant around, otherwise the cows will trample it or eat it. He said, but when the plant is mature, when it is grown into a big strong tree, even an elephant tied to it cannot hurt it. Even an elephant can't hurt it. So then you can provide your shade, your fruits to others without stint. But in the beginning, no. And by the beginning, how many years that is for any given person, who can say?
Hello.
Yes,
Vani.
dear.
Vani, this is Vijay. I'd like to share my personal experience with you on what you said about our need to have a balance between helping somebody and the time it takes away from our prayers. In my own experience, when someone connects with me, telling me about their difficulty or issue and wants some solace, I find myself spending a whole lot of time doing introspection, preparing myself in my mind as to how best I can help. And yes, it takes a lot of time sometime, but I, at that time, say to Thakur, Thakur, this is my offering to you, that thank you, you gave me this opportunity, that somebody confided in me and asked me for support.
Thank you, Vijay.
Yeah, thank you, Vijay. That's really helpful.
That's you've addressed exactly the right being. And yeah, exactly. Thank you. Anything else?
So they're equally good as the way I understand active or passive help, we say, in other words.
Whatever is appropriate.
Yes.
You know, Holy Mother would sometimes give active support to people.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes she would pray for them.
I see.
She's a wonderful model to use.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that kind of makes me circle back to what Isherwood's friend said to Prabhavananda, that it's just escapism. And I've heard that criticism as well. And what I would say is what I've seen. And what I've seen is in Atlanta, they have Holy Mother's Helping Hands that goes out and gives food to the homeless. And in Los Angeles, they get involved with Habitat for Humanity to build houses. And in DC, I've seen them run a free clinic, which people use. I disagree that they do nothing to help the world, even though we do have a priority of our own meditations. I have seen a lot of service to humanity. And I've heard that in India, they actually run schools and
Oh, yes.
hospitals.
In India, they have the effort hours, the man and woman power to do many more things. But Vivekananda was very explicit here. He said, make teaching the ways to God realization your priority. He said, here in the United States, there are plenty of social service organizations. You don't need to start another one. So we do things like Holy Mother's Helping Hands, but Holy Mother's Helping Hands, we just collect and then give to the Atlanta Community Food Bank or to a clothes closet nearby at a Christian church. We don't try to provide the hands-on direct service. Now, what they're doing in Washington, D.C. with that free clinic, they have a lot more effort available to them. They have 3 swamis, many active devotees, and so on, so they can do this free clinic. But even so, as I understand, it's a stretch for you. So.
Yeah, I think it is. I think they're stretching themselves thin, and I've asked them why, and they just feel they believe in what they're doing. So
Well,
I respect that.
Yes, but they're a big temple, you know. We're a small congregation, and so we're being mindful of the way Swami Vivekananda said to do it. Mm-hmm. Keep your emphasis on teaching the 4 yogas as the paths to self-realization, and then encourage the devotees to be involved in social service through whatever organizations they may find appropriate. And most of our people are, in one way or another, somehow serviceful to others through other organizations. Anything else? Well, as always, this is so useful. This is studying the art of spirituality together. And it's good that our congregation shares with one another in this way. So we'll close with this chant. Oh. Let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let this infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all joyous and suffering beings everywhere. So thanks for being with us this morning. What a wonderful way to spend a part of our Saturday. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning for the talk, which is on who is a Jnani. And we'll answer that question in a number of different ways.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Thank you, dears.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. Go through the rest of your day and into tomorrow in Mother's loving and protective embrace.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, everyone.
You bet.
Thank you, Shankaraji.
Thank you, Balakrishna. Bye-bye.
Bye.